Even playing with you, won't even like kids.
I'm so ugly. What?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. You are so pretty. You all shut up. Go in the room. When you look at yourself, you supposed to say, I'm so pretty. You are so pretty. Do you hear me? You got the prettiest little dimples. You are too cute. Oh.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Another super viral topic that honestly kicked me dead in my heart that I'm sure needs no introduction due to the video clip that I just posted. When I first saw this video, my heart and spirit felt like it was smashed into pieces when I saw this little girl look straight into the camera and blurt out how ugly she was. And we know why she felt that way. Somebody is telling her because she is dark-skinned and because she has dreads that she is unacceptable and she is not beautiful. And what really got me was the fact that when she said, I'm so ugly, and thank God for her hairdresser who gasped at the fact that this little girl was so adamant about saying this about herself. The little girl literally turned around and said, what? As if she was expecting her to say the same thing. Either she was expecting her to say nothing. So I think she felt bad because she said something that was so profound and deep to an adult that she didn't even understand the sadness and sadly the power in what she said about herself. And it's so good that her stylist let her know what she said was completely untrue. And the way that little girl Ariana cried, that really took a lot out of me. And it's sad because looking at her was like looking at myself. Because when I was younger, I was Ariana. I was always told that I was ugly. I was too dark. I was not pretty. And I was always described as the ugly dark-skinned girl. Even though I am brown-skinned, I always thought that I was dark-skinned because of that. Because of what other people said about me. And of course, looking at people that are fair-skinned, I always thought that if you weren't fair-skinned, you were just dark-skinned out the gate. I remember being very, very young and having to be corrected by my mom about, like, for example, I loved to draw when I was little. That was one of my things out of many. And I would always draw everyone else the color that they were supposed to be. I drew myself in every single color that you can think of that was not mine. I couldn't stand the color black as a kid. Even one of my uncles giving me a lecture on why the color black stands for so much and why it's so beautiful, why it's so strong, and why is it so important. I remember, also being really little and going to sleep and praying that God will wake me up and I will be fair-skinned and I would look like this and I would look like that and I would have hair like this and that. And it's because of the representation of things that I was seeing on the regular, especially when it came to TV. And I remember one particular time I was really into Egyptology and things of that nature. So one day I remember watching this commercial with this woman that was supposed to be Cleopatra or something like that. And it was a white woman playing Cleopatra. And I remember before I went to sleep, I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to pray about. I'm going to pray that I look like her. Once again, this is the representation of things that I was seeing on TV and things that were likable by other people. And so it took me a really long time to get those images out of my head from being burnt into my head as a child. The way Ariana cried the way she did really took me back. And if I could hug her through the screen, I would have. I am sure that moment with her gave her so much more purpose than just a hair appointment. Who knows what all would entail that day, but I'm sure that just put so much more power into her to put power into someone else that is so small and that is so innocent and does not know the things that the world can put into you, all because of the color of your skin. And at first, she was letting the kid in the back know, look, she wasn't feeling it that day. But as soon as Ariana voiced her opinion, disguising someone else's about how she saw herself and realized how important than ever she was going to be in that moment, I'm sure Ariana looked at her from that day forward as a superhero. And I'm sure that she was a superhero to a lot of women and children who have heard the same thing and experienced it. This video really opened up a lot of minds and hearts. And as we all know, even though now in this day and age, Black women and Black men, we have been lifted up a whole lot. We have gotten so much further than what things used to be for us. But unfortunately, especially when it comes to children, colorism is still an elephant that's in the room. There are still parents that will send their kids, to school, to be with their friends or family, and have not had the conversations about why they are beautiful, why their Black is beautiful, in hopes that somebody else will tell them, or either not even have that topic of discussion at all. And sadly, I've seen and I've been in situations where I can see that darker skinned children have been treated differently, or either maybe not even by word of mouth, but by action. And sometimes I know that children can catch on to things more than people think they can. Just because they're small doesn't mean that they don't see or know what's happening with them. And just because they can't articulate it like an adult can doesn't mean that they aren't experiencing it. Let me give you guys a couple examples that I'm sure some of you have either experienced or saw firsthand, right? So one thing that I noticed that tends to happen in social settings that affects little girls in particular is when there are children of lighter and darker hue around each other, and people will only come up to the lighter skinned child or children telling them how pretty, beautiful, or compliment them on their hair or their outfit, but will completely disregard saying anything to the darker skinned children. And that would automatically make them think after a while, like, well, how come they keep coming up to her, but they're not coming up to me and telling me that I'm pretty or that I'm cute or they like my outfit or my hair? And that right there is something that definitely sets in and can lead to them having feelings of doubt or hopelessness or things of that nature that they really, like I said before, can't communicate, but it comes through their body language and maybe a change in mood, or maybe when their parent or somebody mentions certain things and they might start crying, or they may start showing signs that something's wrong. And maybe the parent might not know it, but they're getting to know, unfortunately, the things that we do go through as darker skinned women in this world. And unfortunately, they're getting a taste of it at a very, very, very young age. There's also a couple other things that have been brought to my attention as well regarding that. And one thing I noticed too is that particularly our Black children, there is a correlation between the dolls that they play with and who they play with, which I'll get to in a minute. In our early childhood, dolls means a lot. They mean a lot to a lot of us girls, right? Dolls signify a lot of things. Dolls give us an inspiration. They give us ideas on, what beauty is, what we want to be when we grow up, and, different stuff like that. And that's whether it's a princess, a superhero, or a doctor. So with that being said, Black children tend to experience pre-existing ideas of what they can and can't be. Going back to the doll test, we saw how Black children would always pick the lighter skinned dolls as the smart doll, the pretty doll, and the good doll, right? And then it would go from them choosing the darker skinned dolls as the bad, evil, and mean doll, and the one that's not smart. And that even comes from children who are non-Black as well. It's not uncommon for children to associate how they feel about themselves with their dolls, right? And if they are quick to separate the light-skinned doll as the more dainty, pretty, smart, and educated, then they will also be quick to separate the dark-skinned dolls that are referring to being ugly, being stupid, being bad, and evil. This is connected to what they think about themselves, like I just mentioned, and what they think about their peers too. And in a lot of cases, they're darker skinned children who will actually, 9 out of 10, eventually stop being social with lighter skinned children or non-black children, because just like the doll test, they also believe that the pretty, smart, or nice dolls represent lighter skinned people. And so with that, they may think to themselves like, well, when they look at the black dolls, the dolls that are darker skinned, they're associated with evilness, being bad, not being educated, and being very mean. So they may think to themselves like, okay, well, if I'm not that, this is what I must be. Because I am dark skinned, I must be evil, I must be bad, and I must be stupid. And things like that tend to soak into a child's head. And then before you know it, they're not doing well in school because they don't think that darker skinned children are smart, or they can't be smart. They may be even mean to their peers because that's what they think that they're supposed to be. Just like we saw in the video, they may be saying things that they heard other people say. They're ugly. They're dark skinned. Their hair is not pretty. They are not pretty. This also, this thing, it manifests into the physical. I remember even hearing a story from a friend of mine about how there's a child in her family that has been so brainwashed into thinking that black is not beautiful. She always tends to gravitate towards dolls that are monsters, or dolls that actually, without her knowing, represent the stereotype of black women, especially when it comes to darker skinned women. Masculine, mean, just like the doll test, evil, opposite of what children see dolls as. And when I heard that, I almost cried. Like that definitely had me. There are a lot of adults who also play into this type of thing. And I've heard of people saying things like, a lot of people think that just because they have lighter skinned children, they may not say it, and they may, that just because they have lighter skinned children, that colorism is not their problem, and that they cannot ever have an issue with colorism or have any ordeals with their fellow black men and black women, and that they are also exempt from racism. Excuse me, but that's a goddamn lie. I've even heard of people teaching their kids that they're not black because they're light-skinned. This is very much still an elephant in the room. And there are a lot of parents that will purposely not teach their children about skin complexions and why you should love all complexions of your fellow black sisters and brothers, your peers, your friends, because they feel like they will never have to deal with any of that. And it doesn't matter what the parents look like either, because they could have a dark-skinned parent and a light-skinned parent, and that darker-skinned parent, or even both of them, will still act like the child is a trophy. Therefore, the issues that we have in the black community will never, ever pertain to them. And they can never have a racist moment ever in their life based off of what color this child came out to be. Another thing, too, that I want to point out is that people don't realize you may have a light-skinned child, but that child can still get dark. That child can still very well possibly become dark. And when that happens, what is it the relationship between the parents and the child is supposed to be like? Since they feel that, yes, I had a light-skinned child, oh my God, I won. Fuck is that? In a lot of cases, this also makes them feel like 9 times out of 10 that they are becoming less associated with blackness and more associated with whiteness. White by association, making them feel as if they're going to be put in some type of higher class than other black people, as if this makes them become accepted into the white society or a part of the white race. Okay, y'all, so I'm going to just go ahead and end the video right here. But before I do that, I want to make sure I shout out and congratulate Little Miss Ariana and Miss Lil Wave Daddy for breaking so many barriers and giving so many black girls and boys everywhere a reason to smile. You know, they both inspired a lot of people, Black mothers, Black fathers, Black children, to raise their voices and be fearless and walk fearless, telling them no matter what society tells them, you are the beauty of this earth, true beauty of this earth. And I definitely want to shout out the men, the fathers, even the men that are not fathers, for making sure that they stood up and made it their business to be present and be an example of strength for the children and the adults who feel that still their Blackness is inferior. And please let it not stop just there. Let this constantly be a topic of discussion to teach our children that they are the future. They are beautiful, they are smart, they are bright, no matter what color they are. Represent and let them know that our Black is beautiful, and yes, we all we got, baby. Okay, make sure y'all stay tuned for my next video because you know I'm coming back. I shall return, all right? Thank you so much for all the people who subscribe to my channel, all the people who watch my videos. You are greatly appreciated, and I want you to know that right now. All right, y'all, have a good night. Bye.